Yeah. All right, so I'm really thankful for this time. I have an amazing guest on with Allie, and Allie's coming from California. I'm in New York, so this is across the country. We're able to do this, so super excited about technology for this moment. But if you're joining us for the first time, this is Brave. This is a ministry for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We are based in New York, but we are kind of exploring other options and going everywhere. And I'm just so thankful for how Lord has led us to different people and different ideas. But Brave stands for bold, redeemed, anointed, victorious, and eternal. That is how God made us. That is how we are to be living in light of who He has made us to be. So we're willing to have hard conversations, infuse it with some hope, and have conversations that matter. So I found Allie, I think also on Instagram, and I was just like, she's covering all sorts of amazing topics that I have a heart for in light of who Jesus is. So Allie, I'm just going to let you talk a little bit about who you are. We're going to introduce her book, her resources. It covers everything. It's gritty. So I'm just so thankful that you're willing to spend some time with us and share your heart and just share your testimony. So give us a little bit about where you're living, what you're doing right now, and we'll backtrack a little bit into how you got here. So thank you.
Sure. Amber, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be talking with you. And I love what you are doing with FCA Brave. I think it's so needed, so special. So it's an honor to be here today.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, I live in North Santa Barbara County in California. I was born and raised in California, always been a California girl. And so I started and I direct the ministry Wonderfully Made. I actually started it when I was 20 years old, and our mission is to help girls and women know their God-given value, identity, and purpose, and experience vibrant mental health and really flourish in their lives. So I'm an author. I host a podcast, or Wonderfully Made podcast. For Wonderfully Made. In addition to our podcast, we have done over 30 young women's retreats and conferences for over 10,000 girls in California and Hawaii. And for about 6 years, we partnered with my friend and professional surfer, Bethany Hamilton, and we hosted 6 conferences together in San Diego. We're back to doing our own Wonderfully Made events. And the other thing is we just launched this brand new community, which is going to be an amazing place, like the go-to place for Christ-centered content and specifically mental health resources. So it's just $7 a month. I'll give you the info. We would love for your girls to join and to be a part of it. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm married to my husband. We've been married a long time now. He's awesome. We're both surfers. We love where we live. We have the sweetest dog, and we're just grateful, just when I look back on my story, I'm just in awe of what God has done and the beautiful life He has given me. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit about me.
Yeah, you've had a quite a journey. So you are, I mean, you're a surfer, so you're definitely in the athletic world. But tell us what sports did you play in high school? Like, how were you involved? How did sports kind of intertwine into your life back in high school?
Yeah, well, sports were my whole world since I was a little girl, really. And it was really the place that I got my greatest sense of confidence from. So in high school, I played soccer, club soccer, and soccer through my school. And that was my whole world. I loved it. It was the best thing for me. We
Mhm.
got to travel to Japan,
Oh, that's
compete
cool.
there. We got to play in
Yeah.
Hawaii. The school that I went to, we had several Olympic athletes come out on the national team. And so soccer
Yeah.
was my main. And then I did track my junior and senior year, mostly to cross train and give me a kind of a competitive edge.
Yeah. How did you get into surfing? Just living in California? Is that what you do?
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily. Everyone probably thinks, oh, you live in California, you
Yeah.
surf. Not exactly. Well, from the time I was a little girl, I was always obsessed with the ocean and dolphins and loved water. I went to Pepperdine for my first 2 years of
Mm.
college, and I decided that we're right here in Malibu. I've got to learn to surf. So, and then I ended up marrying a surfer. We met in Panama out of the country. He was on a surf trip and I was on a missions trip, and he's a huge surfer, so that became a big part of my life and still is today. It's where I find so much peace and joy and fun, and I love it.
I bet we have FCA Surf in New Jersey. So
Oh,
I've seen
nice.
some of them and it's just the coolest. It looks so hard. It looks so hard, but it looks so cool when they do it. So
Yeah.
that's a really neat sport to be involved in. Like I'm fascinated by it. But I want to kind of dig into, so this is your book, Wonderfully Made. I'm gonna say it like this. I got it and read through like so fast because it's so good. You cover everything from even why we're here and to like every struggle we face. I mean, and you did it so beautifully and you did it concisely in these short chapters that I feel like are digestible, but they're powerful. So I marked it all up. It's folded, it's tabbed. I'm like, she's a great writer. So I appreciate you writing this, but it comes from a place of personal experience. So I would love for you to walk us through. I mean, this book is definitely your heart. So walk us through your challenges. Like, you focus on mental health. I mean, so much of that tied into disordered eating and perfectionism and just depression, all of that so innately intertwined. So share your story with us a little bit. Why this is so personal for you.
Sure. Well, I'll backtrack. I grew up in San Jose, which now is known as Silicon Valley, and really had a good home, a bright future. Sports were really my whole world growing up. I just loved gymnastics and swimming and soccer and softball, and that was really where I got my sense of confidence. Around the age of 12, I was pretty feisty and confident as a girl. But what may be true for a lot of your listeners or a lot of girls today is around the age of 12, things really changed for me. And I started to experience a lot of uninvited and unexplained feelings of sadness, of loneliness, and unworthiness. And I just hit it. No one really knew. And so that escalated throughout high school. I was captain of the soccer team. I was dating the captain of the football team at the all boys school. On the outside, as a nice girl. Um, and looked like I really had it together. But underneath the surface, I was really, really struggling. And I think that's true for so many girls and women. We can hide behind perfectionism, behind overachieving. And so every day really became a battle for me. I was in this increasing state of depression, which in hindsight was because of many, many factors. Perfectionism, unhealed wounds. I had a very traumatic experience. I'll go into that a little bit, but so yeah, it just became a really hard time in my life. Sports were my escape. When I got on the soccer field, I found relief from the depression, and I'm so grateful for that. That's really what helped me carry through. And then when I was the age of 17, I had my mind set on going to this Division I college on the East Coast. And I mean, I was obsessed with this idea. I was going to, I wanted to be the star player on the soccer team. And I had all these grand visions for my life. And, we can make our plans for our life, but it's God's plan for us that always prevails. That is always better. And so I had an opportunity to go to summer program the summer of my junior year at my dream college. And I was so focused on getting straight A's in these college courses. I was training so hard on my own every day, doing wind sprints up and down, the gymnasium. I got to play with some of the college girls, and I thought that I was going to be on that team. And, I was 17. I was an innocent, naive, really girl. And I got preyed upon by the college quarterback. And I found myself in a really vulnerable position. I thought innocently maybe he wanted to get to know me, and was put in a really bad position and sexually assaulted and nearly raped before I escaped. And that was heavily traumatic. And I never told anyone about it. And so after that happened, my experience of depression really, really intensified. And when you're in that state, it's so common to lose interest in the things that you like. And so I almost quit soccer my senior year, which was like the biggest red flag. I mean, that was my life. That was where I got joy and confidence. And that experience, unfortunately, really, really impacted me. And I wasn't the same after that. Also, throughout high school, like many girls, battled disordered eating, body image, dieting, binging, purging, diet pills, was trying to conform make my body as fit, as lean as it can be. I know it's such a common experience
Yeah.
for athletes. There's so much pressure. It's even more complex for athletes. So that was part of my journey as well throughout high school. And then at the age of 18, 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I found myself in a very deep and dark state of depression. And Amber, it was so bad. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't talk. And my body was alive, but really there was like no life within me. 2 weeks after I graduated, I found myself in the psychiatric hospital
Yeah.
wanting to end my life. And I remember packing my bags for that hospital and really believing that I would never make it out of those four walls, that was going to be the rest of my life. And I wanted nothing more than to not live anymore. I had always believed in God as a girl. I mean, I saw his evidence in all of creation. I would watch the sunset every night with my dog, but I hadn't heard the gospel clearly presented to me. That summer, I was put on antidepressants. After that first hospitalization, I was put on antidepressants, sent home 3 days later to do group therapy throughout the summer. I grabbed my car keys. I write about this in the opening section of my book. One day I grabbed my car keys, I snuck out of the house, and I headed to the Golden Gate Bridge with intention to end my life by jumping off. I mean, that's how sick and broken and unwell I was. And, I got close to the Golden Gate Bridge and I was driving somewhat recklessly. I was really in a bad frame of mind, got a flat tire. This kind-hearted man came and asked if he could help me, if he could call for roadside assistance. And after not talking to anyone for weeks, I actually engaged in a real conversation with this man. You know, um, we never know, maybe it's an angel in my life, but I know God sent him to give a little hope in my heart. And I went home. And then later that fall, I did not get in to my dream college. I was rejected and I was devastated. I really was. I idolized that school, but I was accepted to another really good school and I was hoping to play soccer there as well. So after that, I tried to start college 3,000 miles away from California in Pennsylvania. And I got there and the depression just really got worse. I mean, a really, really bad place. I got in a really bad place. My dad had to fly out, take me home, and then I was hospitalized for 3 weeks that September. As my friends were, partying at school and making friends, going to college classes, here I was, a girl who looked like she had the ideal life, who looked like she had it together. No one would ever think this would happen to me. Here I was, as broken as could be, in the psychiatric hospital, my
Yeah.
life shattered in pieces. And I was so desperate for hope. And as I was put on medication, and that somewhat helped relieve some of the depression, the desire of no longer wanting to live was beginning to fade. And I did ask for a Bible. And for the first time, I'd never read the Bible on my own ever before. I was so desperate. And so I turned to the Bible. My parents brought me one, and I began to read over the Gospels. I saw Jesus just love the broken, the outcasts, the sinners, came to offer them hope and love and belonging. And one day we were escorted into the hospital chapel. And like I said, the desire to no longer live was beginning to fade. And I wanted to live. And as a woman who was also hospitalized, began to sing Amazing Grace in such a beautiful melody. I felt the presence of God so deeply, and I surrendered my life to Christ in that chapel of in the hospital of a psychiatric hospital. And I will tell you, even in my whole life, I have never felt the nearness and the love of Christ that I did then. Like, it was the most beautiful experience. And giving my life to God and having that radical encounter with Christ in the psychiatric hospital changed me forever. The most beautiful thing was I had always placed my identity in externals, in the way that I looked, in the grades that I got, in how I performed on the soccer field, in how I was accepted by friends. That was where my value, that was where my worth came from. But when I had nothing impressive to offer, but the most broken pieces of my life, and I came to faith in Christ, and Jesus met me there, I discovered my true identity. And that was simply as being a child of God, a dearly beloved child of God. I love the quote by Brennan Manning. And he says, define yourself radically as one beloved by God. This is the true self. Every other identity is an illusion. So I ended up taking that year off. My plans were thwarted. I went to community college, wasn't playing soccer, was not in the shape that I was. I was put on medication, I'd gained weight. I got accepted to Pepperdine the following year, and my plan was to walk on. And I was not in the shape. I had not been performing. I couldn't finish the 1.5 miles in like 12 minutes. So I wasn't put on the team. And so God just put me on a different path. And I started Wonderfully Made. God clearly, when I read Psalm 139 for the first time, I had never heard these truths. It was like I've been waiting my entire life to hear that there was a purpose for my life, that there was a plan, that God knew me before the foundations of the world, that he loved me, that I was fearfully, wonderfully made in his image. And I was like, every girl needs to hear this. Like, I need to share this with every girl, every woman I know. My friends were dealing with all kinds of stuff because we didn't know our worth. We didn't know our value. And so I started as a campus club at Pepperdine. And I desperately was trying to create the community that I wanted, that I didn't have for myself. Unfortunately, the depression returned around my sophomore year. And I found myself in a very desperate place. It was like, God, I gave my life to you. Like, I thought that you were going to take my depression away forever. And here I am, so depressed, and I have you, and I don't understand. And I got into a really desperate place. But God saved me. My life could have been taken, but he miraculously saved me, rescued me. And that's really my testimony. But I'll be honest, I have had challenges throughout my life with that, even into my early 30s. And so it's been my cross, to bear, but God has used it so more amazing than, I think of the small superficial life that I thought I was going to live. And it was nothing like this, how my life turned out. But I am just so grateful, after living so long in the dark. I don't take a single day in the light for granted. It has transformed me. It has changed me. I'm alive. I'm full of joy. And I'm so grateful. And I will say that by God's grace, I always say through grit and grace. Through grit and grace, I am thriving, mostly by God's grace, but through a lot of grit, I am thriving. Because as athletes, that you work hard. Your girls who are listening to this, the value of self-discipline. How to push yourself. How to do hard things. And I'm grateful that I have that my years of playing sports, pushing yourself to the point you can't even breathe anymore. I mean, it's a gift that we get from being athletes. We know how to do hard things. And so it's through grit. Every day I work so hard to stay well and to be well. And I do everything I can, from really guarding my sleep, from taking supplements, from exercising every day, not drinking any alcohol, having good community. I mean, everything I do, because I never want to get back to that place again. And
Yeah.
so it's really through grit and grace. And so by God's grace, I'm thriving. I've never been happier. I've never been more comfortable in my body. It's crazy. I almost feel fitter now than I did in high school. And at one point in my story, because of medication, I had a diagnosis of clinical obesity. At one point, I had gained so much weight that I was at the doctor's office and they put down clinical obesity. And as athletes, girls and women listening probably cannot even imagine that. And that was another experience that God showed me, like, your identity is not in your image, in your body. And so that was another thing. But yeah, I'm thriving. I'm grateful. I've written this book, Wonderfully Made. It's a book I wish someone would have handed me.
Yeah.
And yeah, God has been so good. And I just want to encourage your listeners, He can take your struggles, He can use them for good, whether you're going through an eating disorder or anxiety or depression, whatever it is, it's not the end of your story. And like you say, victorious, right? This victorious life. You can overcome through the power of God working in your life. So that's my story.
I feel like we could probably play on a couple different places in there. But I love that you say that, because did you, and I feel like I know the answer to this, but like, did you just feel like you were the only one, like so isolated, like you're the only one dealing with the depression or the eating, or I'm the only one that's not living their life to the fullest? Like, did you feel so isolated?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because a lot of people, like, when I'm talking to some of the girls, they're so ashamed to admit that they're struggling. Like, there's so much, like, they're embarrassed, which I understand. I understand that, but they're always like, I just feel like I'm the only one that's really dealing with this. So these conversations are so necessary, because like almost everybody is dealing with something that they probably are ashamed of, especially as Christ followers. Like, and we say this all the time, like those who know Jesus almost feel like they should know better, like, hey, I have
Mm.
this knowledge of scripture, this knowledge, but I'm still not better. And you kind of touched on it with like, hey, God, like I gave you my life. Like, I surrendered to you. Why am I still struggling? And so could you speak to that? Like, when a girl, when you're like, hey, but I trust Jesus, why am I still struggling? Like, what's your encouragement for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would speak Jesus's words, is that in this world we have trouble. We will have trouble. Even if we know Christ, even if we're living for God, we might experience severe depression. We might be in the throes of an eating disorder. We might have unhealed trauma that is really wreaking havoc on our lives. I think I thought that by following God, by giving my life to Him, He would take all my problems away. That I was going to
Only.
be fixed. And so it was really devastating when that depression returned. And it was like I felt so abandoned by God, but yet He was right there. And so my encouragement would be, just because, you are living for the Lord, like, in this world we'll have trouble. We will still have struggles, but God will use those to keep you close to Him, and He won't waste them. And He wants you to rest in His grace. And He wants to fight for you, even when it feels like you can't fight for yourself. So do not let that. I think the enemy would like to use that to even make us experience more shame. Like,
Oh,
here you are, a Christian, like, all the verses, the Bible, you've said this sinner's prayer. Like, who are you? Like, you should be perfect. You should have this all together. And I think the enemy of our souls will even use that to further our shame.
yeah.
But Jesus is the lifter of our shame. And that's a lie.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's a good one. I mean, a lot of people, I think we all believe it from one time or another, but I love it. I love the book. I was telling you before we actually started recording, like I was trying to pull out like one or two things I thought were really good. And like I was having trouble just even pulling out like less than 100.
Oh,
I love, but the one thing I love that you did in the beginning of your book is that you set the tone for why we're even here. Like you went in, it wasted no time. Like you're just like, so why are we here? Made by God. And like I love that you gave credence to just the beginning of all things. Because like
mhm.
if Genesis 1:1 is true, then everything else after that is so true. But it builds into um who God created us to be. And you touch on everything. I mean, I was just going through and like as I'm reading, I'm like, it's and you mentioned like even like Lee Strobel, the case for the creator, like you give so, you know, I loved reading him too. Just there's so much to why we're here. Before we ever get to the struggles and all of the things that are facing us, we're here for a reason and we're here for a purpose. And I appreciate that because I think so many, you know, don't get right into the whole why, like why the beginning, why God, why are we here? Why are we created? And you did that to set the tone. So I love that you even say the universe is not looking out for you, but the one who breathed it into existence is. How important to you for you to even just go back and logically create when you're talking? I know you do a lot of speaking and engaging. Like how important is it that you have to address the why we're even here and like just kind of expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, you can't flourish in life. You can't, if you don't know your purpose, like I talked about, there is the atheistic view,
Hmm.
and then there's the theistic view. Either everything happened because of random cosmic collisions, or there's a God who created you and you're supposed to be here on purpose. A lot of the mental health crisis we're seeing today is because God has been taken out of our culture. And so many people aren't even sure why they're here, or if they were supposed to be here, or if they're an accident. And so I say that finding your purpose in life begins with that single truth. And it is that you have been wonderfully made. You've been made. If you don't believe that you've been created by God with love, with wonder, with a purpose, how are you really going to know your purpose in life? How are you really going to have good mental health? So, yeah, I just wanted to start at the very beginning because I wanted this book to be accessible to every girl who wasn't even sure what she believed, wasn't even sure if there's a God or not. So, it was very important to me that those first 3 chapters, um made by God, made to know God, and made for a relationship with God were in there because I wanted to be able to give it to a girl who doesn't know what the heck she believes and have her understand, the very beginning.
Yeah. And I love that you don't just like say the verse and then move on. Like you dig into like how like you know 1 in 4 billion chance that you're here, like you know that the uniqueness of the timing. I know we always say, you know, for such a time as this when we're talking about Esther, and sometimes you hear it and you're like yeah, but what you really dig into like no like really like going into specifics of intention and purpose and all. And I think we feel like we're like yeah we're here but we don't really have this purpose. And I love that you really kind of partake in that and you spend time sitting in those verses, you spend time sitting in that word and those and that time with like just reflecting on even David. Like you go into him like you know how perfectly we're knitted together and it's so not accidental. And I think you're right, like when we're told we're just an accident and there's no reason for us being here, then we really kind of lose that purpose of life and like what we're here to be doing and to know him, right, and to make him known. So I appreciate that. And I love how you get into even just, I actually underlined this and highlighted it. When you start talking about our bodies and our souls and all of that, you put our bodies are not projects that need fixing. They are phenomenally created instruments that allow us to live and love others. As believers, our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is 1 Corinthians 6:19. So I love that our bodies are not projects to fix. So what like that's a word. I feel like that's like God speaking right through you and like just expand on that because I know like disordered eating and eating it's so prevalent and mental health is tied right in. So I say, you know, 90% of the population has got to be dealing with one or the other and it's so pervasive.
Mhm.
So just kind of dig that, unpack that a little bit that our bodies are not projects that need fixing because I love
Yeah. Well, even from the time I was a little girl, I would look at my mom's fashion magazines. And back then, there were no such thing as curvy models. There were only emaciated, skin bone models. And so in our culture, this idea, this feminine ideal of what our body should look like, even at the athletic ideal is ingrained in us. It's so ingrained in us, and we really can't escape those, you know, the culture. Um, but and so I think even really it became out of much of my life, because most of my life, I mean, I started to experience body shame at the age of 8.
Oh,
I would compare my athletic thighs to my friends who are like skinny and bony, and something's wrong with me. My body needs to be changed. My body was never ever good enough. And so I restricted, I diet, led to binges, diet pills, all of that. And I realized, our body's not a project. It doesn't need to be fixed. It is a gift from God that allows us to move and have being in this world. And I'll be honest, it's a message I need to remind myself of every day, because that messaging has been ingrained in me most of my life. And even today I have to renew my mind. Like my body does not need to be changed.
mhm.
Your body does not need to be changed. It needs to be cared for. Um,
Yeah.
so.
But that's a strong word, because you even right, that was like a perfect segue. You talk about self-care. And I like that you used this word. You went from it not about self-indulgence, but about stewardship. And just, I mean, words are so powerful, right? Just that flip, because we can overindulge in self-care and then we become super selfish and super focused on us. But when you say stewardship of the body, like, and of ourselves, it becomes back to knowing our why. Like, why do we self-care? And you kind of even talked about it, like the parameters that you've put up to keep depression at bay. It's
Mhm,
not just like we're gonna pray about it and then just do whatever we want. Like, you've been wise and that God has given you wisdom, but you've put structures around, like, your sleep and no alcohol and what things do, like, open that door. And I think that's so wise. I figure, like, that's a really great stewardship of your circumstances, your body, your time. So just, I mean, talk about that a little bit, because I struggle with the word self-care, because I feel like it gets misused and then kind of like
mhm,
leads into some weird spaces, like, and I'm like, but ooh, that stewardship, and I'm going to be using that. I'm stealing that, because like stewardship of our bodies sounds way different than
mhm,
everything else. So well, I
mhm,
don't know, like, unpack that word, because that was a really good, like, way you phrased that. And I love that you led to stewardship rather than self-indulgence, self-care, knowing our why behind why we're doing something.
mhm.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, God did not have to create us, right? But He chose us before the foundations of the world. And what an honor it is to be alive, even though you can be really, really having a hard time, or even be at the point where you don't want to live anymore. What an honor it is that we have been created, that we've been given this life. And so it is our responsibility, it is a gift. It is our responsibility to receive that gift and to steward it well.
Yeah.
Um, and there are certain practices that, God gives us agency, right? Like, we get to decide what kind of decisions we're going to make. We get to decide, are we going to stay out and party and binge on alcohol or not? Are we going to, starve and all these things? We get to have agency over the decisions that we make, or the way that we care for our bodies. And going back to the grit and grace, right? It takes effort to take care of ourselves. It takes effort to steward our lives. I heard this funny saying that there are two types of people in the world: those who put their grocery cart away and those who don't.
That's
And
fair.
right. And so, are you going to be proactive? Are you going to be that person who takes care, who takes personal responsibility over your health and your well-being? And when we do put in that effort, we reap so many benefits. So
Yeah, I just, there's so much to your book. So we're gonna do a little giveaway as well on Instagram, because I really want to get this into the hands. And we're doing a Brave workshop in April, and we're going to be giving your book away there as well, because I'm pretty passionate about it. It's really, really good. I was looking at some of the things that you speak on, and we can kind of end on these notes, but you tackle some hard topics, and the two that stood out to me right away was social media, and taking care of your daughter's mental health. And so I know that this is probably a whole nother podcast, but
Mhm.
tie those. I think those are two probably closely related things.
Mhm.
Those who have daughters, and I get messages from moms. I get from ever, like, there's such a worry over young girls today because the influence of social media is way more than it ever was before, and it's growing. It's not going anywhere. So can you just dig into that a little bit in the time we have left, with what you see social media, how it's playing into young girls and their mental health, and what's a mom to do about that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I'll give some statistics to put it in perspective. From 2010 to 2015, following the onset of smartphones and social media, the suicide rate among girls went up 65%. It's
Mhm.
gone up, I want to say 151% for girls ages 10 to 14.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that social media is actually killing girls' lives, killing people's lives. Really, it is so devastating. It is one of the most toxic things to girls. We know that social media makes eating disorders worse. It makes anxiety worse. It makes depression worse. It is so toxic. And a huge part of my message is I am like a digital minimalist. Like I have social media, I have huge boundaries around it because I think social media, just like your sleep is integral to your mental health. The way that you use social media really impacts your mental health. And so you have agency. We get to decide what kind of role it's going to have. We get to decide what kind of accounts we're going to follow. We get to decide how much time we're going to scroll. We have the agency, and we do not need to use social media like everyone else. So that is a huge topic. I'm
I
super passionate
know.
about. I'm actually working on something. I can't announce it yet, but that really does a deep dive into that. I'm going to give your girls a practical um,
Yeah.
tip for them to consider. So I have not had social media apps on my phone for over 10 years. So what I do is I don't keep the apps on my phone, but I keep them on a tablet. And so I go on there and there's just different strategies, different
Yeah.
boundaries you can do. If you find that it is an addiction, to really get it out. So I can do a deep dive into that. I know we don't have time.
Yeah.
As far as moms are concerned, especially to junior high, high school girls, college girls, it's going to be up to you. You're in college. You get to decide, is this going to negatively impact my well-being? Is this going to master me, or am I going to master it? You get to decide what kind of life you're going to live. But if if any moms are listening, your daughter's in junior high, your daughter's in high school, I will just strongly say, like, hold off as long as you can. It is toxic. It is an addiction. It's designed to be addictive. Addictions make us sick. There's an alternative we share with parents called the Gabb phone. It's a GABB phone, and it's the shape of an iPhone, but it cannot access social media. It's safe, doesn't have any content, and I've been a guest on a lot of parenting podcasts, and that is one of the number one things I tell parents to protect your girls' mental health is keep them, as much off social media as possible, ideally not as all, for so many reasons. And the ideal situation is if you were to get your daughter and several of her friends to have a phone like this, have like a dumb phone, and they don't feel alone. So they feel like they're friends, they're in the same boat, they don't feel isolated if they don't have social media. So that's just a practical tip. I
Mhm.
know we can talk about so much
I know.
more,
I'm like, well, we could
but
open up a whole nother can of worms with that one, but it's true. I'm glad you are doing a deeper dive, because I think at first you just kind of roll your eyes and be like, there's no way to like do that because everybody lives in social media. I mean, I even look at like team chats. Like if a kid doesn't have like a Snapchat, like he's not in a group chat, or the girl isn't like, for their team networking, you know, it's
Yeah.
so pervasive. And it's like, I think we have to be really, really raw about what's happening and give, because I think a little bit of fear would be great. Like I don't know if parents really fear it, because even my generation, I'm pretty active on it because I know it, but there's a lot of people they're not on it, they don't care, but their kids are. And so it's like you've got two worlds now where these guys are all in, they're all active, and we're kind of on that cusp of like, you know,
Hmm.
and then you get younger and younger. I mean, like iPhones are in kindergarten, so it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
wild to me. But I think it's a beast that we feel hopeless against sometimes,
Hmm.
for sure.
Hmm.
So when I hear you say that, and even just giving statistics, like it will be a fight. It's going to be a fight, but like that's why we have grit, right? Like it comes back. And
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
your daughter worth fighting for, even in the absent of the social norms of having
Yeah.
access to
Yeah.
everything and everyone? Like it's a hard fight for sure.
Yeah. And my nieces, they've grown up without social media, and there's a night and day difference between them and other girls that I know who have been given it as a young age. So
Yeah. Oh, we could do a whole part two. So when are you free next? We'll do
yeah.
all social media. I mean, I think I really will, because I mean it's caused a lot of problems, even just in teams and teammates. And
Hmm.
you know, we had even a huge issue this year with accounts, just trash talk. Like it's just
Hmm.
it gets evil really quick. So,
Hmm.
but for now, I am so thankful that you joined us today. You have so many resources. I'm going to link your website onto this, and then access for your book. We're going to give your book away starting soon. So I'm really excited. So this is the book again, Wonderful Made. That's what the cover looks like. You can find it on Amazon, but it's a great read. Very powerful. I'm so thankful you wrote it. So any last parting words of wisdom, just in the whole, like we've covered so much, but just an encouragement. What does brave mean to you? Like when you look at, if you were to sit down across from a 16-year-old girl who's like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm struggling with so many things. What's a word of encouragement from you?
Don't conform, you know.
Yeah.
You are stronger than you know. You are more capable than you know. You have such a light inside you to shine. And don't be like the rest of them. You're never going to influence the world by being like everyone else. And God gave you your unique personality, talents, gifts, appearance, and it is good. You are wonderfully made, and you are an original, and it takes bravery. Be strong, courageous. God is fighting for you. And
Yeah.
what I would say,
So good.
yeah.
I can't, explain enough that you're onto the right thing. Like your resources are what everybody should have access to. And I love that you're expanding and you're growing. I know
Mhm.
you're launching some new things, so I'm excited
Yeah.
for that to come. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming before we
Yeah, I would love to. So, if you go to our website, wonderfullymade.org, you're going to find the link to the book. You're going to be able to subscribe to our podcast. You're going to see videos from our last events. But we just launched a brand new online community. And our vision is to be the go-to place for Christ-centered mental health resources for girls and women. So you can join. It's only $7 a month right now. You can share your prayer requests. You can chat with other members. You don't have to go on social media to find all those positive things. You just come here. We're going to curate really inspirational, positive content. You can download it as an app. So you just tap the app, you're in there. And then we're going to release courses with experts on all the topics: eating disorders, body image, depression, anxiety. So we want to be that hub. So we would love for you to join. You can find everything, all of our resources, everything we do at wonderfullymade.org.
That's amazing. Like that's a one-stop shop,
Mm-hmm.
and for $7 a month, I mean, when you look at what it costs for some of the
And
counseling, and I mean, really, that's amazing. So I'm excited to check that out. We'll link that in, but thank you for creating something like that. It's so needed. It's so necessary. I pray it just grows and influences people that you don't even know until you stand before Jesus one day and he's like, look at,
yeah.
here's who came to me because of you and your work and your grit. So I appreciate you so much, Allie. Thank you for being with us.
You're so awesome, Amber. Thank you. You're just such a light to everyone. Just getting to know you today, I'm like instantly connected to you, and just know that God is using you to bring so much hope to so many girls. And so
Together we
thank
go from New York to California.
There
We
we
got the country
go.
covered. So, all right,
Yeah.
thanks, Allie.
Okay.